Sarah LaChance, the founder of Stop the Movement, and Kristen Taylor, who is the director at Stop the Movement, which is a local nonprofit with a mission to educate, empower, and equip Tampa Bay area to prevent exploitation and human trafficking. Both of these women are incredibly passionate, knowledgeable, and we are so grateful to be able to partner with them today.
Thank you. Thank you, Amber. And thank you, everybody that logged on. We really appreciate the fact that you are humble enough to admit that you don't know it all. A lot of times parents think it's not going to happen to my kid. I think I've done everything I can do, but we all need to be humble enough and realize that we're learning every day. And really, when it comes to tech, our kids really kind of know a lot more than we do. So that's why we need to get wise and we need to stay educated and we need to be realistic about the threats that are out there. Okay, so let me share the screen. Okay. All right. Can everybody see this okay? And sometimes we have problems with the photos of us blocking. If it's blocking the words for you, you can drag it and you can move it as well to a better part of the screen. So feel free to do that. Okay. So once again, we're Stop the Movement. Our mission statement is to educate, empower, and equip to end human trafficking and exploitation here in Tampa Bay and beyond. And really, we're about prevention. So we want to prevent the abuse and the exploitation before it happens. All right, hang on. Oops. Okay. I've got a little video for you. This is the worst case scenario.
Hey, Jessica?
Hey, are you Brian?
Yeah, the studio's just a block away. Do you want to get going?
You really look at your profile picture.
Yeah, that picture's a few years old, but anyway, let's go. Come on.
Sure, yeah.
Okay.
Real quick, Kristen, before you
Yeah.
start, I misspoke earlier. If people have a question, don't put it in the chat. Use the Q&A area because I think the chat is closed.
Okay. Is the Q&A working now?
Okay. I don't see anyone anywhere to type, but maybe someone else can type one.
Okay.
Yes,
There we
I
go.
see it.
Got it.
Yep.
Perfect. Okay. Okay, so that is it seems like the absolute worst case scenario. And we think, how could that ever happen? But look, it was somebody who was reaching out to her on a very common social media platform. It was on Instagram, and he appealed to just complimenting her. Everybody likes compliments. You know, it's the predators, they know exactly what they're doing, and it can end up in scenarios like that if kids are vulnerable and just not really aware of what's going on. So why are we so concerned about internet safety? As you saw, like that video, statistics show that 55% of human trafficking victims are recruited online, and other types of exploitation, such as sexploitation, other blackmails, other cyberbullying. So much is out there that could go wrong, and it's everywhere. It is in all the social media platforms, Instagram, Facebook, Snapchat, all of them, the common ones. The video games where people can talk on instant messaging to your kids playing video games in that upper left-hand corner, upper right-hand corner while they're playing Roblox. There's a lot of deceptive dating apps. Kids think that they're just getting online to have like some fun chats with people. They really market it towards kids in tricky ways. And then it ends up being like not kids their own age. And then we also have a lot of targeted ads with links to follow that might send them pictures that they don't want to see and you don't want them to see. So you see these pictures of doors on this slide. Can you imagine if a man showed up, like an older man showed up at your house, knocking on your door and asked if he could play with your kids? Of course you would say no. And if your kids answered the door, they would say no too. You're not coming in. But think about this. Online, your kids are allowing access to strangers to come into their house via the screen, into their bedrooms even, and they are playing with your kids online. So it is happening. People we don't want are getting access to our kids. So some very concerning facts, some new statistics that just came out recently. This one is crazy. In 2022, 1 in 5 kids aged 9 to 12 report having an online sexual interaction with someone that they knew was an adult. That's age 9 to 12. 20% of kids have already reported that to a survey. In 2023, almost 36 million child sexual abuse materials were reported to the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children tip line. That's 98,000 plus per day of images that are floating around, illegal images of kids' sexual abuse material. That's a lot. And this one in 17 kids report being a victim of sextortion. That is, if you think of every single classroom in every school, one kid will be a victim of sextortion. And over the past 2 years, the number of cases reported, and that's reported, how many are not reported, but the reported cases are up 323%. So we really can see that no kid is safe on social media. They will be contacted by sextortion gangs. But if we're equipped as parents and have the right conversations, if they're equipped as kids, they won't fall victim. And that's what we want to do here. We want to tell you the reality, and then equip you to prevent it. Okay, so a lot of times people don't want to talk about it because they're afraid or they don't understand the technology, but we have to. This is a picture of a congressional hearing where all these kids, all these parents held up the pictures of their kids that died due to online interactions, whether it was buying drugs online or human trafficking or suicide because of bullying, something like that. So these sad parents are holding up their pictures, trying to enact change in Congress. And that bill actually finally did pass. But it took the worst case scenarios happening first. So first thing that we talk about is cyberbullying. 1 in 2 teen girls have been bullied or harassed online about their physical appearance. Think of the difference between the way that we were bullied when we were kids before the internet versus cyberbullying now, 24/7. You know, what used to happen to us when we were bullying, you know, it was like a locker room punch or something. And the only people that knew about it really were the ones that actually saw it. And then whatever word of mouth happened there. Where now cyberbullying, you not only have the people who see it there, but and then it can immediately go viral. It can go airdrop to everybody in the whole school, to the whole city, to the state. It can go viral all over the internet, and millions of people can see your child being abused. So 24/7. And the other big difference is when we were kids and we were bullied at school, we could go home to a safe place at our home and we'd be left alone. Well, when it's on the internet now, there's no safe place. When they go home, when they wake up in the morning, it's there 24/7. So that makes it just extra devastating for the kids. So gossiping, this includes gossiping, saying mean things, posting nude photos of someone. And I want to stress how illegal this actually is. If your kids have nude photos on their phone, you can actually get in trouble too. So if there's an investigation into this photo, every photo that's online gets assigned a hash. And then the FBI or whoever the prosecutors are, they can search by hash code and they can find everywhere this photo is in existence at all, like email servers everywhere. It's how they can catch predators, but kids and families can get in trouble by having these photos on their phones too, due to how easily trackable through the hash codes are. So just food for thought, something to think about. We tell that to the kids and that we speak with, and it makes them very afraid, and it should. Another way is setting up fake accounts. So for example, if your kid has a public account, and this is what happened to my daughter when she was actually a junior in high school. If they have a public account and it's easy to get pictures of them, someone can set up a fake account that looks like them, but maybe they just misspell it slightly, the name. People don't know, and then they go on and they say a bunch of bad things about them. And they're extremely difficult to get taken down. They actually usually can't get taken down. My daughter's, it was at least 6 years ago. This was before I started Stop the Movement and didn't know these things. Nobody had educated me. To this day, that fake Instagram account is still up there with all the bad things that they said about her. So that's why we say it's just so important to have private accounts and to be really careful who you are friends with online. With artificial intelligence, it's people can do anything with a photo of your kids. This is really scary, but there's kids that are doing it, high school kids. There's some kids in a New Jersey high school that actually did get arrested because they took a group of girls, classmates, and then they were able to use an app to put nude bodies on them, and then they shared it with the whole school. So once again, that's illegal, and they did get arrested, but those poor girls, yeah, terrible, terrible. So, and there's so much encouragement to self-harm, and lots of times it is effective. The kids just don't know what to do when they've been targeted like this. So someone says, you might as well just kill yourself. It's very, very sad. So the most important thing to stress about this is being able to talk to your kids about bullying. You don't want your kids to get bullied, but then you don't want them to be a bully either. What goes around comes around. So we need to talk about bullying. We talk to the kids about, does being anonymous make it easier to be mean to someone else? And they all shake their heads. Yes, it certainly is. And we act differently online than we do in person. Adults do that too. Gosh, I logged on to Facebook for the first time. Well, I have to for work. And people are just so mean on Facebook, even adults. So as adults, we can also model good behavior to our kids in our interactions. And so we don't become bullies either. And we can show them that you can stand up for people when they're getting bullied and when there's this awful discourse going on too. So it's very, very important that your child feels comfortable talking to you about bullying, and that you will listen. You need to tell them that you will listen and that you believe them, and that you're not minimizing it, and that it's important. And then you report whatever needs to be reporting as well. So being bullied online can lead to vulnerabilities. And when it makes your child feel lonely and they're losing friends, then they're also more likely to be a target of an online predator who's saying nice things to them. This is a situation actually that we just a couple days ago, a mother came to us with her daughter that had been bullied at school and was just looking for a little bit of love and a little bit of compliments and just a little bit of respite online. And then she actually started in some conversations with an online predator. Luckily, it stopped before anything bad happened. But that vulnerability from the cyberbullying was what led her to be a little bit more comfortable talking to a predator who was saying nice things to her. Okay. Social media. This, we really want to talk to our kids about how it makes us feel, how often we're on it. 1/3 of teens report that they use it almost constantly. And this is also something that we want to hold a mirror up to ourselves as well and say, how often am I on social media too? Am I setting a good example for our kids? That's really important. Like I said, that we're modeling good behavior. It's important to understand how it's affecting our brains, the dopamine that we get when we're scrolling and clicking, and how a lot of these apps like TikTok and things like that, they are really set up to give us these little hits of dopamine. They hold our attention for just long enough, and then it goes to the next, and then it keeps going on, and it has the same effect on our body as a narcotic drug. So we need to be aware of that and be using it responsibly, and realize if we are starting to get addicted, we realize that we need to just to back off. I'm sorry, I'm having just a little bit of brain fart. We need to see how it's affecting us. And what happens during addictions is that it doesn't give us satisfaction anymore. So maybe we started out only spending half an hour on social media, but we're not getting the satisfaction we used to anymore. And then we start spending an hour, then we start spending an hour and a half. And then pretty soon we really don't get any satisfaction out of anything anymore. And we're searching for more stimulus. And then we can get into more material that we shouldn't be getting into. But it can start with this addiction, chemical addiction that we're setting up inside our brains with social media. So also it leads to anxiety, it disrupts our sleep, low self-esteem when we're comparing and contrasting ourselves to how many friends and how many followers our friends have versus we have. It's a bad thing for kids, really. We don't say, stop the movement, we don't tell parents no social media at all, because we do realize that there's a lot of good things to come out of it too, but we just want to be very, very careful, and we want to wait and delay it as long as possible until our kids are ready and that they're ready to see it as a positive experience. And if it becomes negative, well, then they need to draw back or they need to examine that. But we just need to always keep it positive, uplifting, building us up, and using it as ways to build other people up too. And kids need to evaluate what influencers they're watching. We always say that what you feed your mind with is what is going to come out. So if you're feeding it with a lot of consumerism, buy this, you're not good enough, you have to look this way, and then what's going to come out is a lot of anxiety and low self-esteem. So they want to choose people to follow that are going to be positive influences and make them feel good about themselves. Okay, safety tips. As we said before, accounts need to be private. It's really about the quality of the friends that you have and not the quantity. And friends versus followers. What's the difference between that? Talk about that with your kids. A follower, you don't even know who they are. So why would you care what they think, or how many of these bots, sometimes they're not even real people. It doesn't matter. What matters when we're using social media in a way that make us feel good about ourselves are real friends, people that are going to be good influences. So it's the quality, not quantity. We don't want them to use their full name on the profile too. Just a first name, or even make up something completely different. Like Sarah's, for example, is She Fights For. Mine is Be Strong Girl, 321. So you can kind of remain anonymous and less easy to trace. You need to be careful about sharing school names, club teams, etc. You think that having a private account is going to protect you from all of this? Yes, it's good, but predators can still reach out to private accounts. And believe me, I get people reaching out to me about every other week, something that I report to the cyber tip line, and I have a private account. So it happens. These are solicitations to go to like bad websites. So if it's happening to me and they know who I am and I'm like a mom, it's 52, you better believe it. It's happening to your kids. They know. So teens need to share their account passwords with their parents, and parents need to be able to friend each other, friend their kids. Or if they say, no way, I am not going to be friends with my mom, which is what my daughter wanted. This was, like the 10 years ago daughter, then you can get one of your friends to be friends with her. So they can kind of watch over her, to give a little bit of accountability. It's not because you're trying to bust them or get them in trouble or anything, but you just explained it's just a way of keeping things on the up and up. And a lot of kids, they say, no way, I will not share my passwords with my parents either. That's something that you should establish before you even give them the phone, before any of the computers. But if it's too late for that already and they still won't, you can explain to them that if anything were ever to happen, police need to be able to get into your accounts. All the social media companies and whatever, they protect privacy so much. So if there needs to be an investigation, they do not, like Instagram, Ubers, all these things, they don't release any information because of their privacy rules. So you can tell them that they can put their account passwords in an envelope, seal it, and just put it someplace safe for later. So beware of private messages. 89% of unwanted content that comes to them, like those links for the solicitations, comes in the form of private messages. Okay, so be careful who you accept as a friend. Just because you see friends in common doesn't necessarily mean that they're safe. Say you have 1 or 2 friends in common. Usually kids will say, sure, I don't know this person, but they're friends with so-and-so, they're safe. Not so much, not always. One of the worst sextortion cases that ever happened was an Air Force pilot that systematically went around trying to friend a whole school. And the minute he gets one person to accept, then all of a sudden everybody else starts falling as friends because they had that mutual. And then he took his time to pick off person by person and then start sextorting them. So talk to your kids about that. Bikini shots. I know that all the girls want to do this and they say they're all doing it, but the algorithms are really looking for scantily clad girls with a lot of followers. We've spoken to recruiters for OnlyFans and for some of these modeling agencies, things like that, places that you would not want your kids to be investigating or to be reached out to, but they got reached out to because algorithms are looking for these bikini shots. And there are pedophiles that use these algorithms too. And there is a Wall Street Journal study that shows us this. We're not making it up. So also remind them that future employers and colleges can do searches, and screenshots last forever. Once you get something put up on the internet, it's very, very difficult, if not impossible, to get it down. So if someone reached out to you that scared you or made you uncomfortable, there's the feature to block them. And that's what most kids do. They know how to block it. But we also tell parents and kids that you also need to report the suspicious account too. So you can report it both to the social media website. They offer a little way of doing it, but I don't really think they investigate it. They don't have a whole lot of manpower dedicated to that, but do that. But then we also recommend that you report to the cyber tip line. And that's in a later slide about how you would report that. And you need to be aware of private group chats because there's predators that get around the private messages and they do private group chats and you can't report them that way. So when you see a private group chat, and these are people that are also selling investment advice too. Let me tell you that I get those. You never follow those links. Okay. Video game danger. Video games can be really deceiving. They're some of the ones we really look at are that we know are bad are Roblox and Fortnite. There's just so many different ones, but there's been a lot of headlines and things in the news about predators being on Roblox, especially. They say that if you look at on the App Store, Roblox says that it's for age 12 plus, but at least like 98% of the users are around 9, 10 and under. And so it's not appropriate for them. And some of the images that they see are definitely not age appropriate. Like some of the outfits that they wear and that they can buy, they sexualize the characters this way. And it's a way to groom our kids to get them to think that wearing those type of clothes or looking at those body parts, even though they're avatars on a video games, it still affects their brains and their minds when they're that young. So you need to think about how it's affecting them. And sex can be hidden in plain sight. So look at this screenshot. This is something the BBC did a deep dive into Roblox, and they found something they're called like lockers, where you can get invited into these private rooms that will be open for about a minute, 2 minutes, and they can invite kids in and make it sound like, oh, cool, it's like it's a dance party or something. And then they got in, and then it's like a strip club. This is a picture, it's a strip club, and there were all sorts of terrible things that they saw, kids getting hurt, people were cheering and clapping as kids were getting hurt. It was terrible. And Roblox cannot shut all of these down because they only last about 90 seconds or 2 minutes. So once they find it, it's like already on to the next one. So it's like a whack-a-mole with these bad places. So kids need to know that they cannot go into these little private rooms. And you need to talk to them about how they can actually use voice changing technology to make themselves sound like a kid's too. And we know this, with the kids that we talk to, they tell us that this has happened to them before, and it's very, very confusing. And it sounds so realistic that it's a kid their age, and then they realize, nope, it's not. So lots of problems with video games. Okay.
Right now at 6, a warning from police. Think twice before you hit send. St. Pete PD's got a new ad trying to help spread a very important message that a growing number of people in the Tampa Bay area are looking for a good time, but finding themselves quite embarrassed and out of thousands of dollars. This is called sextortion, and cases like these are actually on the rise now.
As Fox 13's Evan Axelbank explains for us, police are actually begging anyone on these dating sites to be aware.
Even being around the block a few times isn't enough to stop the embarrassment.
I can think of one case that I've heard where I think it was a 15-year-old male and he had paid $15,000.
Police say the scheme is as simple as it is effective. Pose as a beautiful woman and entice an unsuspecting man or even a teenager for naked pictures. Once they're sent, the suspect demands money or threatens to post them online or send to family. Sometimes they take the money and still post the pics.
It's gotten so bad that we've actually had several suicides before we were aware of it because the victims were so distraught.
This year, St. Pete has seen 36 people fall victim, with 15 of them in just the last week.
Right now at 6, a warning from police.
Okay. So that is sextortion. Recent statistics show that it's happening more to boys than to girls, although it's definitely happening to girls too. But a lot of very, very organized criminal gangs are specifically targeting teenage boys and asking for money. So the first step is that the predator will initiate a friendship, pretend to be the teen, and then friend you. And then they're going to build a relationship. Now, sometimes this could take weeks, months, grooming with compliments. Sometimes it can take a matter of just an hour. It just really depends on how good the predator is and just kind of how vulnerable or, gosh, what's the word I'm looking for? The kids are just gullible. So, but they're very good at finding things in common and teasing information out of the kids, which they may not have intended to release, but the predators are just very good about doing it. When you shower them with compliments and attention, you're so pretty, things like that. It makes the kid feel at ease. Then when they develop a little bit of trust, feel at ease with them, then it can develop into a deep friendship or a romantic interest. And then once you develop trust, and you know what, really, these steps can be applied to all sorts of grooming, not just sextortion, just how any predator or inappropriate adult can reach out to your kids. So broaden your thoughts away from just sextortion, but this is just grooming in general. And the other thing regarding number 3, developing trust, is that predators are specifically looking for a vulnerability in a child, something that then they can use to say just the right things. So if they find out that the kid has been bullied in school, you know, they can say, like, I can take care of that for you. If they find that the kid is feeling sad because maybe the father isn't in their life or something, then they may say, you can call me dad, or, you know, I can buy you a new phone, things that your dad wouldn't be able to do for you, things like that. They target kids that are in foster homes who don't have a lot of, or group homes that don't have a lot of family around them, or they feel like they haven't gotten the love and the attention that they think that they need. Predators know, and then they work their way in that way. So targeting a vulnerability. And then they start desensitizing you to inappropriate content through conversations, using words that the kids are not comfortable with. But then once they use it often enough, then they get used to it. And then they let their guard down, and then they can get the photos and then a selfie. And then once the predator has a photo, then they've got them under their control, and they can maintain the control. They use shame, secrecy, demanding money, or more photos, threats against family. We often don't think about that, but I personally know victims of human trafficking and sextortion, that was the thing. They're like really good kids, but that was the thing, the threats against their family, that got them to do something that they didn't want to do. The bad guy said, if you don't give this to me, this picture, or if you don't do that, or come down to the hotel and do this for me, whatever, then I'm going to do the same thing to your sister. So you do this, or else I'll hurt your sister. And then the people I know, then they complied. So, but we're saying you never pay, and you never comply. You report it to the police right away, because paying doesn't stop it. Okay, so who are predators? This is an important one, because if you look at the myth, that's what we always have in our mind, that it's the gross old guy. But we're telling you, reality is not that way at all. The majority of people that are hurting our kids are people that they already know, or that they've met. Like, for example, that Florida woman, 22, posed as a 14-year-old homeschooled child. So it was a woman that was doing it to a guy. Over here, there's, it's like a trusted adult, the camp counselor, the teacher, the coach. This guy here, this is, it's a professional. It can be a working, you know, like the biggest case that I was telling you about, he was like an Air Force captain. People that are regarded highly, firemen, policemen, things like that. Down there, you see just another team. One of their peers can do it. And then there are also some very highly organized criminal gangs in other countries that are using chat bots and very, very sophisticated techniques to reach out to our kids. The chat bots, you can tell they answer very, very quickly, And sometimes the language or grammar will be a little bit wrong. So as they're having a conversation, if something feels a little bit wrong, something is off, it is. It's because it's not a person. It's like it's a algorithm programmed on the end to get to the end point where you get a photo. Okay. We really tell the kids that it's so important that they don't share the personal information about themselves online. It seems to be kind of, everyone like wants to talk about their anxiety or their depression, and it's okay to talk about those things, but there's a time and a place. And if you put that information out there online, predators can see that, and they know, and that makes your kids an easy target. And as we mentioned before, another big factor is previous trauma and abuse, like the cyberbullying and things like that happening at school, family troubles. It makes them statistically, they're just more prone to falling victim to predators. So here's some ways that the predators work. DM me. So they might be talking in a public forum on a video game, and then they ask the kids to switch to a private chat and then go onto another app. Like say, how about downloading Facebook Messenger so we can talk privately, or downloading some other Discord. Discord is actually one that a lot of that you can talk privately on too, that it goes from like a video game onto Discord. So that's a red flag. All the compliments, you're so pretty, you're so smart, things like that. You can talk to me about your problems. Someone saying I love you before it's appropriate. Secrecy, don't tell anyone about us. That's a big, big red flag. In a lot of the cases that we know of that kids have been exploited or trafficked, that's been one of the biggest flags. And the kids thought, oh, this is kind of a fun secret friendship. I'm enjoying sneaking around. But the kids need to know, like, no, that's a bad idea. And if a friend tells them to keep them secret from parents, that's bad. You need to talk to the youngest kids about secrets, the difference between secrets and surprises. A predator might try to trick them as far as saying like, no, this isn't a secret, it's a surprise. So think about the differences. Giving gifts, a sense of security, new phones, new shoes, things like that are what the bad people are doing. And if they ask, are you alone? That's obviously a bad one. Send me a pic. If you don't do what I ask, I'll show everyone the pics you've sent me. I know a way you can get a good job and earn a lot of money. That's definitely a red flag, the earn money fast. Kids need to know the difference and the way a real employer would reach out to them versus a shady thing that's doing private messages. Why would they want it to be a secret like that? Okay. Now, this is the like kind of the embarrassing part that we don't want to have to talk about. But when you look at the statistics, we have to, because over half of middle schoolers have already accidentally seen a pornographic video, and the average age of first exposure is 11. And believe me, we've gone into so many classrooms, so many camps, so many different places, and that statistic is true. And those are only the kids that are actually reporting it. Everywhere we go, we find that the kids have been exposed to it and they're embarrassed about it. They feel shameful about it, and and a lot of them keep it a secret. But that's why we want to get this out in the open. We say that you need to start talking to kids about good pictures and bad pictures early, and talk to them about it often, so they feel comfortable going to you if they've seen something and they feel bad about it and don't know what to do with their thoughts about what they've seen. So it's just so important that we talk about it earlier than we think we need to, because the statistics are very sad. And I'm sure you've been reading these statistics while I was just talking, but so dangerous down at the bottom. If kids are not talking with their parents or trusted, safe adults, they're going to go online to learn. So 25% said that porn is the most helpful source to learn about what to do with a girlfriend or boyfriend. And it couldn't think of a worse way to learn about human relationships than in pornography. And what's scary is that in a study that examined all the titles of porn videos, teenager was the most common word in the titles. So we know that the porn producers are targeting kids and that there's a demand for watching kids too. So that's why the predators are out there looking for things to fulfill the demand that's actually out there. Okay. Pornography is actually the third most common form of human trafficking, which is modern day slavery. You use force, fraud, or coercion to obtain a commercial gain from someone. So it's essentially buying, selling a person, treating them as a product. I don't know how many of you watched The Sound of Freedom, where they said that with drugs, you can sell a drug once and then it's gone. But with a child, you can sell them over and over again, and they are a product. So pornography is a form of human trafficking, and people are being abused. A lot of people think that they're actors that are choosing to do it, but they're not. And minors are in a lot of the videos, and they make them look like adults, but they're children, and that's illegal. And that's a crime. So because we know that people are getting hurt on porn videos, I like to tell the kids, if you saw someone getting assaulted in real life in the school parking lot, would you stand back and watch? No, you wouldn't. But when we've told them what pornography really is, that it's actually human trafficking a lot of the times, and that it's not consensual, and someone is being hurt, someone is getting assaulted. So if you wouldn't stand back and watch someone getting assaulted in real life, why would you do it on the screen? It's just bad news. We don't want to do that. So think of it that way. Porn also changes our brain chemistry, like sugar, like it causes addictions, especially for young kids with the undeveloped prefrontal cortex. They're curious. They just want to see things. It is being thrown at them in so many easier ways to access than it was for, the old school, just like that magazine, where like, oh, you get it and you look at it, but it's available all the time. So it really can change our brain chemistry and cause addictions at a young age. We touched on this a little bit, how it teaches the wrong way to treat each other. Rape nurses are reporting a growing trend that teens are raping each other a lot more than ever before because they're watching it on pornography. So I want to tell you about Brain Heart World. It's a very, very good documentary that you can watch. It's available online on Fight the New Drug. You might want to screenshot that. It's for kids like middle school and up that can watch it, but it's good for adults, and it helps you understand the scope of what we're dealing with, and then how you can talk to your kids about it. So parents think it won't happen to my child. We underestimate the size of the problem, and we don't understand the emotional impact that once you've seen something, I don't know how many of you can think of an incident or something that you saw or something that you heard that stuck out in your head when you were a kid, and you still remember it to these days now. So we really want to protect them from that happening. And if it does, then that they can come to us and talk about it, and that they know that it's not their fault. They were just being a kid. They were being curious. And that we just need to talk about it and be able to answer any of their questions that they have about it. So have conversations early and often. This is something we'll just briefly touch on, and it's something that's really quite scary: artificial intelligence and deepfakes. There's so many apps out there now that are very user friendly, that allow kids and bad guys to create extortion content. So that is really why we want our kids to remain as private as possible on the internet. So on social media. So like a good headshot wouldn't be available, that you can use a Notify app to turn a blackmail thing, make it possible on them. So I encourage you to read a little bit more about the artificial intelligence and deepfakes, and it's scary. Okay, you can quick screenshot this or take a picture of this with your phone. Apps to watch out for. These are a lot of deceptive things, chat type of things, and just ways that they can meet people that, might not have the best intentions. And as you look at, there's some really common things, Instagram, things like that. Calculator %, see that one? If you see your kid with one of those, that's not good. What that is, it's a vault app that allows them to, when they enter a certain code on the calculator, then it opens up a trove of the photos that they want to keep secret from you, that they don't want you to see. So if you see something like that, it's a little different than the regular calculator. You would want to have a conversation with your kid after that. Okay, so what do we do about this? 3 layers of protection. First is the conversations and the relationships that we have, and we've discussed that a lot. And then you can do your own rules and your boundaries, require locations, like, for example, not in the bedroom, only in the living room. All of these things kind of change as on the age of the kids too. Your 14-year-old might have different rules, obviously, than your 7-year-old. So, and then there's the last: filtering, blocking, and monitoring software. So here's some resources that we recommend. The Secret Gift for Grace. We can make these, actually say what it is on our website too. And the Good Pictures, Bad Pictures. That's a way of just starting some conversations with younger kids. Sextortion was a movie that was a really good conversation starter that middle school and up can watch too. The most important thing too is the way you talk with them, that it's not a judging or condemning voice, that you say that, I'm putting these apps and these controls on your phone because, not that I'm trying to catch you doing something, but I know that people are reaching out to you, and I'm trying to stop the internet from doing bad things to you. I'm not trying to catch you doing something bad. It's not an us versus them. It's us with them. We're being good parents and we're protecting them. And when they push back, we have to remember that that's normal for them. Kids will do that, but that we have to hold our ground. When I'm having arguments with my 13-year-old daughter, it's kind of reassuring for me to know that parents everywhere are having the same arguments. And it helps me feel less alone. Parents everywhere are turning off the computer at 9 o'clock at night and telling the kids and enforcing their bedtime. You feel alone, but you're not. So you really, that's when you really need self-care and talk to other friends, other family members about the same struggles that they're having too, and support each other. The other thing about that last slide, you've already read that, the bullet point. That's a good way of explaining to the kids too about, you know, driving and being emotionally mature enough to handle social media, for example. You're not emotionally mature enough to drive until 16. Well, for that reason, I believe that you need to wait to have Instagram until you're 16 as well. Is a stance that you can take with the kids, and they'll understand it that way. Okay. We've talked about a lot of these. Remind kids that tech devices are a privilege with rules and not a right. So it's also good to be able, when you know the kids' passwords and how to open their screens, that you periodically check their photos and their browsing history. You don't want to, it's not fun, we don't like to, but it's important. Okay, so there's a lot that's already on the kids' phones that you can use for filtering, blocking, and monitoring. So these screens just take you through it. And it's usually when we're doing this in person, we have people take out their phones and we do it. But this is when you get into your Apple ID and the family and you go under your account, and then it lists all the kids that you have under your account. When you click that on, you can start setting these other apps like that, setting these other controls like the asked to buy an app, so they can't just download anything. Screen time, you can fix that. All these app limits, downtime, all these things too. You want passcode changes, don't allow. That's really important. Account changes. So what you've set that they can't change. The Tampa Junior League is also going to follow up with a handout with some of this information as well. Bark, and they'll be emailing that to you within the week. So additional parental blocking and filtering apps we recommend is Bark. You can buy a modem, and then it can cover every single device in your house too. So not just the kids' phones, but also their iPads, computers, things like that. And it filters out X-rated type of things. And you choose different things for your older kids than for your younger kids and for your own computers. Okay, now this is good to know. Phased approach to introducing cell phones to kids. So between ages 6 to 10, you know, say that you really need to be able to get a hold of your kids. You know, you're going back and forth between mom's house and dad's house. A smart watch is a good way to go. And then when they're done with the smart watch and you're ready to graduate up, there's an in-between stage before they get the real phone. There's these kid-safe smartphones that already have all these controls built into them. So Bark has one there, and there's a couple other options. And then when they move on to a real phone, it's just important that before you walk out of the store, that you have all those like filtering and monitoring apps set in place. So when they get that phone, they know, and you don't have to like backtrack. Oh, I want to put this on now, but do it right away. And do not let them have social media immediately when they first get their phone. Okay. So after we've talked all the doom and gloom and how hard it is, let's just talk the good news and encouragement. Sometimes the day-to-day grind is so hard and we get so tired, but we just have to remind ourselves that they're just these little battles here and there, and it's the long game that is important. What you are doing and showing them, putting rules and boundaries shows them that you love them and that you care about them. You're not being mean, you love them and you care about them and you're protecting them and your family. Love is active, not passive. We need to be parents and not be their best friends. It's so tempting to be their best friends and take the easy way out, but we have to remember that's not always the most loving thing to do. The loving thing to do is to, within reason and with good communication, put the boundaries. So, and supporting each other's with other friends, other moms, other dads, with your spouse, supporting each other and taking breaks for self-care. So that is that. Let me take the screen sharing off and hang on. Stop share. Okay, here we go. We'd like to open it up for any questions you have or discussions.
Perfect. Thank you, Kristen. That was fantastic. Such great information. It always makes me so sad that we even need to have these conversations or that our organizations even need to exist. But such great information. And like you said, it's really about prevention. So this is great.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Okay. Any questions? I know that was a lot to take in.
Yeah, I wrote down so many while you're going, and then like a slide later, you answered it, so I crossed it off. So let's see. Someone asked, are there any other apps similar to the calculator app that we should look out for?
Ooh.
hope
I think there are. That's a good question. It's mostly the calculators, but I know there are other. So if you get on, go to the App Store and just type what you're looking for, hide my photos, secret photos or something, you'll find what they are.
Mm.
So there's other ways. I
Yeah.
know. Yeah, there probably are, but you can figure it out.
Okay,
Scary.
let's see. What age do you recommend, if you recommend at all, having a child watch 13 Reasons Why?
Ooh.
I know it is a lot about bullying, but it is also pretty mature.
Sarah, are you familiar with that one?
I do not appreciate that question being fielded to me.
Oh,
I
well,
that is it's a heavy show. I think we cannot tell you as a parent what's the best decision for you because my oldest child is about to be 10 and it's for our household it's not appropriate for her. For a different household it may be. You've really got to make the decision based on your individual children and not even just blanketly all of your children, each individual child. If it's something that maybe they've had a personal experience with or a friend has had an experience with that it would resonate with them, then I would watch it with them as well. That's kind of because questions are going to come up and you're going to need to be able to field those things. And on kind of unrelated but similar note, whenever I let my kids watch YouTube, I painstakingly will watch it with them or I'll be in the room with them. And that's just what works for us. I feel they're going to watch Netflix, it's fine, but when they pull up YouTube, even though I have parameters in place, I will ensure that I'm in the room listening and watching kind of whatever is on because I just simply don't trust it. And a lot of times I can tell you, not a handful of times, a lot of times things have come up that have been extremely inappropriate and I've said next video, turn it off, go play outside, go, your time is over, whatever. And then we've had to explain, why is it inappropriate? Why are you want me to turn it off? Why are you overreacting? So just be present and especially if you're going to watch something like that. And it is great. Could be very educational.
sometimes it teaches them really bad behavior too, and bad attitudes, because you're like, where did that attitude come from? And then if you like heard it in the background, you're like, oh yeah, that came from that influencer, Mr. So-and-so. And then you'll know what conversation to have with your kid, or just say like, don't watch that anymore. Like, no.
Right.
Because
Right.
Mhm.
turning into like a sassy pants, like I don't appreciate that.
Yes. Yes.
So anything else?
Another option for like the starter
Mhm.
movie you mentioned was the movie Sextortion. I thought that was really well done, and Kristen had mentioned a couple of times about the story of the Air Force captain. This movie is actually his story, and they interview the kids some of the kids, not all of them, because there were a lot that were involved in this case. And it was really eye-opening, and it's a great place for parents to have that starter conversation, because kids can see
Yeah.
that their parents aren't overreacting. They say this is a real story. This really happened, and you get the emotions of it and the effects of what happened to those kids.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I think that's great.
Someone asked, if my child has those hidden photo apps on their phone, how do I ask them about it or even bring it up?
Hmm.
Yeah, there's been some kids that we've talked to that clearly had some things on their phone that they admitted to us when we talked to them. I think you would want to talk about the reasons why they need to keep it a secret.
Right.
Because it could stem from some insecurities that they're already having, some shame. They know that they're doing something wrong and it's affecting them. And we kind of need to take that approach versus you're in trouble, take that off, why are you doing that? We have to take a look at the underlying issue and treat the root cause, why they're acting
Right.
in that way versus the action itself. And to also telling them that what they have may be illegal too, and could be traced with the hash codes.
Yeah.
Scare them.
That's so good. Yes. And I will also add to that. I think it's okay. So it depends how old your kid is and when they got a phone. So again, just speaking from my personal experience as an example, do whatever a phone last year. I didn't think that was the best decision, but here we are. And I told her that when you're in my house, that phone is, I have full access to see that because you're a child and there's nothing on there that should be a secret. I should have access to your passcode. She said, why don't I have access to yours? I said, because I'm an adult. There's stuff on my phone that you don't need access to. However, my job is to keep you safe. And so I want to make sure that what's on your phone is appropriate. So that was, I got lucky because I kind of cut it off at the pass with that situation. Now you may have a 13 or 14-year-old and they've had a phone for 5 years and now you're playing catch up, and that's completely fine too. So at that point, I would say, again, like Kristen said, you want to go into it without judgment and without condemnation. But there really needs to be, and it's not going to be one conversation. It's going to be, this is the beginning conversation. It's going to be conversations forever until they move out of your house. Why it's important, things that could go wrong, how you love them, how you want to have open communication with them. And this is just one way to do that. The dangers of the internet, the positive things about the internet, have a conversation. Don't let it be a one-way thing. And then say, I understand it hasn't been like this before, but it is my job to keep you safe as a parent. And so I'm putting new guidelines in place. And one of those things is going to be that I do have access to what you do online. And that's because I love you. And like was said in the presentation, love is
active, it's not passive. Kids don't care about that. This isn't going to be a good conversation. They're not going to be thrilled that you want to go through their stuff. There's going to be a lot of pushback. If you've been a parent for any amount of time, you know that that's just par for the course, and that will protect them in the long run. And you having access to their stuff is, in my opinion, it's mandatory in your household. But again, to what extent you do that is completely up to you and what's best for your family.
Yeah, you know what? Can I add one more thing too about sexting and how common it is for kids to sext each other? It's part of the whole like getting to know each other, dating to almost ritual these days. They don't, a lot of, it's very, very common. But kids don't understand the risks that they're putting themselves under to send like a topless photo, or I don't want to use that dick pic or another photo, because what happens if like they break up with that girlfriend or their boyfriend who has that photo of them, and then they can use that to extort them, to embarrass them, or to bully them, so that you never know who you can trust. Sometimes even your best friends can turn around and stab you in the back. We know about other girls extorting each other, like their own friends,
Right.
with things like that too. So just, you really, if they're going to sext, show it in their like sports bra, or, something like that, that if something was going to get out there, that it wouldn't be the end of the world. Right. So they might, I don't know the age of your kid, but that might be what's happening. And that's what all the kids are doing. But it's a bad idea. It's just dangerous these days. Everyone is doing it, but I mean, not everyone, but I think 2/3 of them is a statistic that I saw today. So it's risky.
Yeah. I think you touched on it at some point. Are there resources for parents if this has already happened, photos are already online? What do parents do? What resources are there to help them and help their kids get it offline?
Right. That's the takeitdown.org.
Okay.
Gosh, that's not on the slide. Takeitdown.org. And that's a part of NCMEC, which we mentioned, the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children. But if you're a minor, they have a process for reporting that, and they will help you take it down. So that's a new service. It's only been around for about 1.5 or 2 years. It took that long to get it. They finally got funding to administer that, which is great.
Wow.
It's amazing.
Okay, I like this comment / question. She asks, we started a notebook that my 13-year-old girl and I use for her to ask questions that she doesn't want to ask to my face. Is this something that you think might work to open up difficult conversations with teenagers?
Yes, that's awesome.
Yes.
My daughter actually mentioned that she wanted to start doing that too the other day. I'm like, yes. Drawing through art, things like that. Perfect. That's great.
I feel like I need to do that with my husband, even as an adult.
It works for any relationship. Love that. Way to go. You're being proactive. You're being an awesome parent. That's a great idea for the rest of us, because it's so uncomfortable. That's what one of the things that Kristen and I just we watched or something was, if you're going to have a conversation with, and honestly, Amber, even with a spouse, when it's uncomfortable, if you just sit down and you're face to face with them, it's so aggressive. It's so uncomfortable. If you're doing it, however, when you're driving and you're next to each other, but you can't necessarily stare at each other because you're driving, way better. If you're doing it on a walk, even better, because you've got those happy endorphins are pumping, and you've got some sunlight maybe. And again, you're not looking straight at each other's face, but you're walking side by side, doing like a similar motion. Even better. So this is another great example of how to have a conversation that's not pointed and aggressive and maybe just undermining, or and just anxious that's coming out as anger, so this is a really, I super applaud whoever wrote that. Tracy, super applaud you. What a great idea, and I want to apply that with my kids.
Yeah.
Perfect. All right, last question I see here. As an educator for middle school and high schoolers and a father of 2 under 2, what advice or words of encouragement can you, and I sometimes feel bad for my kids when they get older.
Sorry. Hang on. I couldn't hear all of it. Okay. What advice or words of encouragement can you say? Because I see so much in school. Oh. There's a lot of good about those middle school kids too. As a parent, you get scared and you worry and you think of all the bad stuff, but also think about the good that you see in those cool, crazy, quirky kids, rather than honing in on the things that worry you too. And then as a teacher that too, that you use the same like positivity and encouragement. It's so much easier to do that to other people's kids than your own kids sometimes, but applying those same
Totally.
principles, encouraging them as you do to your own kids too. A lot of those skills you use as a teacher transfer over to your own kids. So yeah, well,
Yes.
they're your kids, so you do have control over the like boundaries. For now, they're young. Enjoy it.
Yes.
That's fun.
Yeah.
I wish I could have 2-year-olds.
That's great. That's great advice. The last quick thing that I will say about that is start now and have the conversations early and often. And one of the things that we encourage people is obviously be age appropriate. Your 2-year-old, isn't going to understand internet safety, but they will, as they get older, understand proper body part naming. They will understand autonomy. They will understand safe touch. And like Kristen says, secrets versus surprises. Those are things that you can instill in your kids now, and just building and fostering a healthy relationship. One quick and funny story, my son, when he was like 2, I was mortified, but I didn't grow up in this type of household. We didn't talk about this type of thing. We didn't talk about sex. We didn't talk about body parts, anything like that. And so I really made a point to do this with my kids growing up. And my son was literally at the park, and he's swinging back and forth on the swing, and he screamed in front of tons of people, "Mom, I have a penis." And I was like, whose child is that? But I was like, you sure do, son. I'm so proud of you for like appropriately naming it. Whatever. We had a conversation at home, like that's not something we should probably say out loud at the park, but have the conversations, and just it should be a free thing that we just discuss. This is so normal in our household, and it's not taboo or anything like that, because it doesn't need to be. And then hopefully that will also be a pillar of prevention for abuse happening with your kids. And then once they are at the age of having technology, you will have already laid a foundation, so they'll be good to go. And then you can encourage the kids that you're working with. You're really in a sweet spot, so keep up the good work.
Yeah.
Oh,
Tricky people.
Yeah, we've just started looking into tricky people and what that means. I don't know what that means.
Yeah, that's kind of like the buzzword that like the police are using as a way to describe like people that your kids should look out for. So it's like the because we know that sometimes people that they trust can hurt them as well. So that person that they trust, they wouldn't think of them as a tricky person. But so in addition to, tricky, talk about the qualities if someone touches you in a way that you don't like, think about the actions and the qualities. If they ask you to keep secrets, don't tell your mom, I bought you this. The tricky actions
Right.
versus just tricky people is what we would encourage you to talk about too, because it's, you know, it's like policemen can do bad things to
Mhm.
girls and, you know, family members. So it's the actions that are tricky. So
Right.
it might cut off anytime now.
Okay.
Do we have anything else?
That is
And
the
you know what?
last question.
Absolutely feel free to email us at info@stopthemovement.org too, or you should be able to reply to any of those the mass emails too. I should be able to get that as well. So for any additional resources or any burning questions, we can help you.
Okay. Thank you so much for doing this presentation for us. We're so grateful for you. And thank you to everyone who was able to tune in tonight. This is such important information and we're grateful to have you. So I hope everyone has a great night.
Wait, the raffle.
Yes.
The
yes,
raffle.
yes.
So the fifth person so we'll see the timestamp. The fifth person that that logged in, that dialed into this, is going to win the Amazon gift card. So we have your email and we'll email you who the winner is.
Yay.
Yes.
All
Okay.
right. Well, thank you so much. And I hope everyone has a great night.
Thank you. Good night.